Nicaragua and the United States, the Cold War clash. Few talk about. During the 1980s, Nicaragua became a major focal point in the Cold War, not through a declared war or direct U.S. invasion, but through a proxy conflict that reshaped Central America. The U.S. didn't fight Nicaragua with soldiers. It fought with covert funding, political support, and military training given to a rebel group called the Contras. This complex chapter of U.S. foreign policy still sparks debate and reflection today. Who were the Sandinistas? In 1979, a revolutionary group called the Sandinista National Liberation Front, FSLN, overthrew Nicaragua's dictator Anastasio Somoza and took control of the country. The Sandinistas were left-leaning, with socialist policies inspired by Cuba's revolution backed by Soviet-aligned nations, including Cuba and the USSR. They introduced reforms in education, healthcare, and land redistribution, but also faced accusations of restricting free speech and targeting opposition. Why did the U.S. get involved? The United States, under President Ronald Reagan, viewed the Sandinista government as a threat to democracy and a potential ally of communist expansion in the Western Hemisphere. To counter them, the U.S. began covertly supporting an armed rebel group known as the Contras, short for counter-revolutionaries. The Contras were mostly former members of the Somoza regime anti-communist fighters armed and financed with the help of the U.S. intelligence community. The Iran-Contra affair, a hidden controversy. In an effort to bypass congressional restrictions on funding the Contras, members of the Reagan administration secretly sold arms to Iran and used the profits to fund the rebel group. This became known as the Iran-Contra affair, one of the most significant political scandals in modern U.S. history. Although President Reagan denied direct knowledge, the scandal raised questions about government transparency, accountability in foreign policy, covert military operations, the human cost, and international criticism. The Contra-Sandinista conflict led to thousands of civilian casualties, displacement of communities, widespread fear and economic disruption across Nicaragua. International human rights groups criticized both sides for violations, and the World Court ruled that U.S. support for the Contras violated international law, a judgment the U.S. rejected. The peace process and democratic transition. By the late 1980s, peace talks began through the Esquipulas Peace Agreement, supported by other Central American nations. In 1990, free elections were held, and the Sandinistas lost to opposition candidate Violeta Chamorro, marking a shift toward peaceful democratic transition. The U.S. provided economic assistance to help stabilize Nicaragua after the war. Lessons from the Nicaragua conflict. 1. Proxy wars during the Cold War were just as impactful as direct battles. 2. Covert operations can lead to long-term regional consequences. 3. Diplomatic engagement eventually brought the stability military funding could not.